Hello class, welcome to the Fall 2020 Introduction to Philosophy class, Bergen Community College. I'm just making this brief video to do two things really. Just one, to introduce you a little bit about myself and about the class, and two, to give you your first assignment. Now, just first a little bit about myself. I'm Professor Eric Wicke. I've been teaching this class for about 8 or 10 years. And it's a one that I really like because, there's a wide range of ideas. We cover a lot of ground from the ancient world through the Middle Ages and into the early modern period. So there's really a wide range of ideas to cover. And I just find that very interesting. About the class, I've divided the class up into two parts, the mechanics and the content. So first I'll give you a little bit about the mechanics and then some of the actual ideas that we'll cover. Now the mechanics, I see the class as composed of 4 elements. One, there will be videos and readings. I'll put these up on Moodle and I'll give you assignments on them. So 2 will be assignments. The third element will be quizzes and a final. Now just briefly before I do number 4, I'm saying that we'll have 3 quizzes. I put that in the syllabus, so we'll space them periodically throughout the semester. We'll have plenty of warning before they happen, so there won't be any surprises. We'll go over the material on them. And same with the final, plenty of warning, we'll go over the material, so there really shouldn't be any big surprises there. Both will be take home because obviously the situation we're in, we don't have a classroom, and you'll have, I would say, 24 hours to do them. Last one is Zoom. I would like to have a Zoom meeting once a week, but when the semester starts, I would like to decide as a class how often you think we should have them and how long they should be. Now, the purpose for the Zoom meetings is just so that we can all stay on the same page. We can all kind of, make sure we're all getting along with the material okay, and we're not isolated in front of our computers, so I want to try to avoid that if possible. But I don't think it takes a lot of time to accomplish that. So, maybe we'll decide to do it every 2 weeks, but at the beginning of the semester, we will decide. Tentatively, I'm thinking maybe we'll do them in the evening. I think that will be convenient, and most people, and all people should have to be able to do it. So we'll decide that at the beginning of the semester. I also have a plan for for how the semester will go, and the plan is really not complicated. It's actually very simple. Once a week, I'll put up a reading or a video up on Moodle, and I'll give you an assignment on it. And the assignment will consist of a set of questions, and you can pick 1 or 2 of them depending on, what I think is a good assignment for that week. 1 or 2 questions, and you'll write a paragraph on each one, and then you'll turn it in on Moodle. I will correct it and grade it and give it back. One thing I do ask is that you try to get them done towards the beginning of the week so that I have time to correct them and get them back to you by the end of the week before the next assignment, so that I don't get into, way behind on all my correcting. So that's pretty much the mechanics of the class. So let's move on to the content. I'm still not sure which side of this eraser works better, but I don't know. Okay, so it's like I need to do that a little better. Okay, the content. Now, I said in the Moodle description that the class was both historical and thematic, and that's not, I don't mean anything fancy by that. I just mean, let me write that down. All I mean is that we will pick up certain themes throughout the semester, and we're just going to pick them up as they come in chronological order. That's the history part. But for the history, I would like you to have this template in mind. Ancient, medieval, modern. It's a very standard way of looking at the breakdown of historical epochs as far as the history of ideas goes. Because they both have, their different emphases on things, and we'll look at that when the semester gets underway. Now, for the themes, I picked out 3 just as a sample. This is by no means a complete list, but I picked out 3. So let me just briefly go over those, and then we'll do the assignment. One is the relation between politics and philosophy. I could almost couldn't fit it there. This is a very ancient question. In fact, our first assignment is going to be on the Apology of Socrates, and it's all about this question. The next assignment after that will be on the Republic of Plato, selections of it, and that too is about this question. And the thing about politics and philosophy, and you could also group science in here, because what I'm really saying with this is, what this question really asks about is the relation between politics and truth. And I just see philosophy and science as the truth-seeking enterprise. So what is that relation? Oh, I didn't spell it right. It's antagonistic, and for the following reason. Politics is the area where there is rhetoric, spin, competing interests, pursuing your own interest regardless of whether it's right for everyone. That's the realm of politics. And philosophy is almost in a sense the opposite. What is right for everyone? What is the ultimate truth, if we can at all find that? There's an antagonistic relation here. And you might think, well, maybe we should get politics, or we should get philosophy more involved in politics. But, that's got its risks too. Because, you might want to have science informing our politics. But what happens to science in the process? Does it survive intact? So we'll talk about that question. The next question is this. Cleverness versus wisdom. The ancients made a very strong distinction here between wise thinking and clever thinking. They're both forms of intelligence. But what's the difference? It's just this. If you look around you, you will notice that human beings have very clever ways of getting done what we want to get done. All kinds of clever technology. We got the phone here, we got the computers. We got cars running around, we got genetic engineering, bioengineering, all kinds of very clever stuff. But have we really stepped back and asked the question whether they're good for us or not? And the wisdom part is to step back, is the stepping back. And I believe I wrote that in the introduction. Now, the question of all those things that we have that are clever, they might be right, they might be wrong, but the question is, the point is, have we really asked about it? And I'm suggesting to you that we could really stand to ask about it a bit more. So that's the cleverness versus wisdom. And the last theme, number 3, is a thing called metaphysics. And metaphysics really has 2 dimensions to it, 2 sides. One is the question, what is really knowledge? Or how do we know what we know? And the other part of the question is, what is really real? So, just by way of illustrating the question of knowledge, I should write that down actually. Knowledge these are very old questions. And here's just an example. You might be an empiricist. You might say, well, we can know about the world simply by observing and watching what's going on outside in the world. And we can know it that way. But then I might say, well, can you really trust your observations? Or even more, don't your observations require some mental processing in order to be coherent? What is the nature of that mental processing? And therefore, maybe knowledge is about the ideas, not so much about the observations. So there's a debate there, and that debate is the rationalist empiricist debate, which we will definitely talk about. Now, on the reality side, a similar distinction comes up. You might say, well, the material world is real. I can pound on this table. Doesn't that make it real? I say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But, what about this? The physical objects out in the world, they behave according to physical laws. But are the physical laws real? Or are they physical laws material? Are the physical laws, are they rather ideas? Are they mental? And then you think, well, okay, the physical objects have to obey the laws. Doesn't that make the laws more real? And if the laws are more real and they're ideas, aren't ideas more real? So that's, another similar distinction along the question of what's really real. And we'll talk about questions like that. So that's, kind of just a sampling of the kinds of ideas that we'll talk about. So now I want to give you your last assignment. And that's on the Apology of Socrates. Or did I say last assignment? First assignment. Now, the assignment is to read half of it and answer questions. Actually, one question. I give a question set. I give a set of 3 questions. You can pick one and write a paragraph. But before I give you your questions, let me just give you a little bit of setup as to what this is about. And then I should also tell you how you can get this material. The word apology, it means defense. It does not mean I'm sorry. And this is a defense of Socrates, and Socrates is on trial. The Apology of Socrates is a courtroom drama where Socrates is on trial for his life, and the charges are corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods of the city. Now you might think, well, why is that really a crime? And the thing is, well, what's really happened with Socrates is that because he's questioned pretty much everything, it makes traditional values look a little bit suspect. And they don't seem to be able to stand up so well to rational scrutiny. And that's made people mad. And so he's up on trial for essentially being a subversive. So the Apology of Socrates is Socrates' answer to the question of whether or not he's a subversive. He says, no, it's just the opposite. I'm the best thing that's ever happened to the city of Athens. Okay, so that's the setup. Now, just before I give you your questions, I also want to tell you how you can get this. You can do one of 2 things. You can either buy the book in the bookstore. Actually, I've got it right here. Let me show it to you. Classics of Western Philosophy. I have the 8th edition here. It's one of the very first selections in it. I believe it starts on page 27. Go to the bookstore, get the book. I've checked. They've got plenty of them. Or you can go onto the internet and do a Google search of Apology of Socrates full text, and you will get a translation that you'll be able to read, and that's perfectly acceptable. Okay, now for the questions. Now also, again, I forgot to mention, all of this will be on Moodle, so that you don't have to rewind this video 20 times to get the assignment. It'll all be on Moodle. And I came up with 3 questions, so I want to just give you those questions really quickly. Actually, before I do that, let me make sure my camera's still working. Okay, I'm still recording. So these are your questions. Question 1, why is Socrates on trial? I mean, there are charges, but do the charges actually explain anything? And you write a paragraph onto whether you think there's a real reason for Socrates being on trial. And if so, what is it? The second question is, why does Socrates argue that philosophy is actually beneficial to the city when everyone else, well, not everyone, but a certain faction seems to think that philosophy is subversive? What is so beneficial about philosophy? And the third question is on a thing called the Delphic Oracle, which we will also talk about more in detail later. And the question is this: does the story of the Delphic Oracle prove what it says it proves? And if so, and if not, why not? If so, why? Do you think it proves it? And those are your three questions, again, which I will write down in a much better form when I write it down on Moodle. So that's pretty much it for the introduction video. I think we're going to have a really great semester, and thanks for watching.